Speak with that microphone. In one of my lives, I'm part owner of a manufacturing operation in the clean tech sector. And it's affected everyone in this room in that we provided for the recovery of 1 through 7 plastics, blue box plastics in our process in about 2013. And that was in part with assistance from the IDF fund at the province and also SDTC. So we were able to bring this technology to North America and it has been moving forward. So my question or my comment to Michael Chan is relating to carbon credits. And the importance of carbon credits for us as an SME in Ontario is the ability to monetize the carbon reductions that we create through recycling operations. And so part of the message, I think, part of the vehicle for us to grow and innovate is having the ability to generate revenue, which in my estimation could be in as much as $1 million a year to a small SME through monetizing the carbon credits that we create. So is there an opportunity as part of this new package in dealing with carbon credits, because the message is often difficult, higher costs, higher gas costs, but there is a flip side to that. Is there an opportunity for small companies in Ontario who are innovating and in a leadership position to monetize their carbon credits as part of this process?
I think there's 100 million in there that on the page number 6, and the person actually will be addressing or looking after these credits is person sitting to my right. So I'm going to pass on to Minister already because he has all the money, and the program possibly is still in the initial stage. He probably had kind of that in his brain how to frame these credits and how to give the grant or support the business that you're talking about or the business that you own. So I'm going to pass on to him.
Well, thank you, Minister Chan, and thank you for that question. And I'm glad to hear that one of the projects that my Ministry of Research and Innovation funded in the past, IDF, that project now bears fruit, and your project has been successful. Now, on that question, I must tell you that just about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Premier and I announced $100 million of investments into a green fund. Basically, what's going to happen is that the funds within this green fund will be invested in projects which will lead to the reduction of greenhouse gases. So you may tap into that fund. The fund is available, and the requests or proposals are going to be out by the Ontario Centres of Excellence, who will be managing this fund. It's a quite substantial amount of funds, $100 million. So I guess within weeks they're going to send out the request for proposals, and your company and any company can apply for those funds. So that is basically one of the intentions of Green Fund, that the money raised from the cap and trade will go into innovative technologies, developments of innovative technology, which indirectly will lead to reduction of greenhouse gases.
RPP to fund those services. So there's an expense now by those employers. They're funded by primarily one source, the province. Is there a provision for and funds put aside to meet their obligations to meet ORPP?
I would. It's a fairly simple and straightforward question. They are covered by a comparable workplace pension. So my understanding is that they won't all be covered by the ORPP.
I think Brian's probably referring to some transfer payment agencies that are government funds in the not-for-profit sector.
Direct and indirect.
Okay.
All I can say on that subject is we have heard the concern, and we have relayed it to the Associate Minister of Finance, Mitzi Hunter, and I believe she's considering various options.
That sounded like question period to me.
Thank you very much, Ministers, for the presentation. I'm very pleased to hear that we're addressing issues for post-secondary. It's been a long time coming, and I'm also very pleased to see the investment that is being put into children with autism. When the Liberals came in 2003, it's been a wonderful journey, but there at that time was a commitment to make adjustments to the funding model for education. We have significant shortfalls in the funding for special education students. I know that for two of the larger boards in the province, they're underfunded by upwards of around $20 million a year. I wondered, I don't see anything, but I wondered if there will be adjustments to GSNs to help assist boards with meeting the needs of our most vulnerable students.
Well, thank you. I know that Minister Sandals has talked about special needs, and it's going to sound a little bit like question period again, I'm afraid, because I'm really not sure to what extent she's looking at the GSN, the actual formula. She's very involved at the moment and looking at some of the schools, the residential facilities that care for those with severe learning disabilities and those visually impaired and so on. So it seems, from what I've heard her say, that they are looking at the model as it exists across Ontario. But I'm sorry, I cannot be more specific. If you want to come and visit one of us, whoever is most appropriate in our state office, we can definitely get you the latest from the Ministry of Education.
I don't know if anyone understands that the number of children coming into the schools that need special ed has gone up very quickly, trying to fund special education for every child that needs it is our aim. However, it is very difficult to do that. There are in kindergarten years ago, I would have classes that have had no children with special needs. The last two classes, I had 3. There's 4 classrooms, 4 kindergarten classrooms in my school, and everyone had 3 or more that came into kindergarten. So that was 16 kids that were coming in, that in other years probably there would be 2 or 3. So that is the same as the increasing number of seniors is having an effect on the healthcare system that we're trying to revamp. There's going to have to be, Minister Sandals, I'm sure, is looking into some different way of taking care of that.
Thank you, Anne. The
Thank you very
gentleman.
much for entertaining us this morning. I'm Ted from the IBEW, that's the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. One of my duties currently is I monitor the subway York-Spadina TTC project. I've got 300 to 400 members on that line, and Andy Byford's office from the TTC made a statement that due to shortfalls, deficiencies, the project is about 1.5 years behind. $500 million will be paid out by the residents of Toronto, the province, perhaps the provincial government will be topping up some of it. The bottom line of it is, we've got contractors that have not been paid for 6 months. Okay, we through the building trades have lobbied for prompt payment. I'm just hoping that something can be done, as the Ontario Construction Lien Act hasn't been changed for like 60 years. Okay, the model's broke.
I think Steve's prepared to respond.
Those are great points that you raised. So first of all, I would say on the Toronto York-Spadina subway extension, which is, as you mentioned, which is a project that's being managed by the TTC. The trains will be running before the end of 2017, and your members and all of the skilled tradespeople working on that project are doing a phenomenal job, sometimes under very difficult circumstances. So thank you, and through you to the rest of the members from the IBEW and others working on that project. As it relates to the Construction Lien Act and prompt payment, this is something that I know has plagued the construction industry, and it's actually getting worse instead of getting better. It's one of the things that, prior to becoming Minister of Transportation, I introduced a bill in the legislature on prompt payment, a private member's bill specifically on the issue, which made it to committee for hearings but didn't make it all the way through the legislative process. I know that the Attorney General is currently conducting a review of the Construction Lien Act, specifically taking into account not only updating potentially the Lien Act itself, but also looking at other provisions that would help deal with prompt payment, because it is a bit of an epidemic in the construction industry. Last night when I was in Oakville with our Minister of Labor, Kevin Flynn, he actually said from the podium when he spoke that this is something that he feels optimistic that we are going to see progress on. And my understanding is that the independent advisor who was retained to do a study of this issue is reporting back into the Attorney General in the next month or so with an update based on all of the consultation that he's heard. It is a bit of a complicated issue, and I say that as somebody who authored that private member's bill, understanding all the complexities that we have in the system. But I am optimistic that we're going to see some progress before the end of this term on both the Lien Act issue and on prompt payment. So thank you for your patience on it.
With regards to the second wave, the York Spadina line picks up at Downsview, and currently it's dead end to that Highway 7 and Jane Street. What we've got there is a Walmart and a Bed and Bath.
For now.
Is there any appetite that it's going to hit Vaughan Mills and possibly Wonderland?
So there's no additional extension planned at this time for the Spadina line. I think if you look at the area, I mean, you mentioned Walmart and the other retail stores, but what you also see across the street, because of the investment all levels of government have made, condo towers going up, the KPMG building being built right basically at the base of where the subway will terminate, and more to come, because I know that the City of Vaughan and York Region are working hard. I see Councillor Racco, whose ward this falls into, working very hard to make sure that we can actually transform that part of York Region into a new downtown city, a downtown city core, similar to what's taking place in Markham and other places as well. So I know that we do have a variety of other projects that sit in that next wave to service not just York Region, but other parts of the GTHA. But just to be clear, the plan right now is that the subway on the Spadina line would terminate at Jane and Highway 7.
Thank you.
Over here.
I have a couple of questions, one relating to business and one relating to sports and rec. But the first one relating to business is that I've been a solo entrepreneur for the last 35 years. I started my first company in 1981, La Maison du Poisson, all these danishes and croissants. I was the first one in North America to bring them to Canada, and it was a very, very, very difficult time. But I'm looking at the long term. 35 years later, Ontario is center ice to Canada, and we have so many great opportunities. But to Minister Chan's point, very difficult to compete with India, Mexico, Vietnam, Brazil, all these other countries. When are we going to have an even playing field? When are we going to be able to employ employees and have the same type of standards that we maintain and that we expect for our children and their children? It's really not fair for us to engage in these type of business ventures when it's not an even playing field. And two, I'd like to hear what we're going to do for sports and rec, because to me, I've been coaching for over 17 years. I'm the board of director with the Roaring Soccer Club and with the AMHA. We need more infrastructure, and we need to know that our kids and our youth are going to be in a great area to excel at sports and to really have a good sense of self-esteem. Thank you.
So, Michael.
I want to touch on these the free trade agreements, which is a very popular item that so many countries talk about, and many free trade agreements actually been done. We have one with Korea, with America for a long time, and also recently with Europe, and there's a number being also discussed. Many people think that this is aggressive in terms of outreaching to the world, but in my opinion, that actually is a defensive move. The reason I talk about that is, just imagine, every country of the world will have a free trade agreement with all the other countries of the world. That become no barrier, no nothing. Become a really level playing field you're talking about. And then you go back to, can we compete on labor? As I said before, we are a big landmass. Competition within our country it costs money too. So we go back to, we do have to compete by our paying power. This is, we keep investing in education, we keep investing in the skill and all that. And what other countries are really all in line with their free trade, and we would kind of like stand alone, be really protectionist, and then we will be left out. This is what I'm talking about, this defensive move. So I know, this labor and India and China together, they are 40% of the world population, and you really want to compete with them on labor, I am sorry. Okay, it won't happen. And I was in India, well, recently, and they had one non-skill, not really high skill, non-skill, tons of people handling this iPad or some kind of phone. Their pay is 10,000 Indian money, which is $200 US dollar a month. All right, so yeah, we do have to recognize that we have to be innovative. We have to keep developing a very good business environment for investment to the kind of people. That's really a medium and long-term future for Canada. On the sport and rec, I'm not the minister anymore. And but you want to comment on my opinion on sport? I think sport is a big one for the economy. The recent NBA in town generated $100 million in Toronto, and I always admire how the American can promote their sport, and by that they're making a lot of money. They're able to drive domestically the economy, big time. So I'm more than happy to talk about maybe your interest in sport, but in essence of time, we can make an arrangement another day. Thank you.
Just to add a little bit on the sports and rec, obviously there were some major legacy projects in terms of the Pan Am Games last year, but we are about to hit 2017, and this is Canada 150. And there is an intention both on the federal government's part, and I don't know if Francesco knows anything about this, but certainly in Ontario, we also want to take part of that. And there's the opportunity then for funds for, again, more local community applications for potentially sporting facilities. We probably all remember the centennial pools at Canada's 100th birthday and so on. So there is going to be some opportunity in 2017. Now, Christina, you've been standing, but Frank had his hand up a little earlier. Frank, would you like to?
I'll make it quick. So just a couple of, a compliment and a thank you first. A compliment to our five York Region MPPs. I'll extend it to Ann as well, and the four people from Barrie later. But I just want to say, as a municipal representative, we are very fortunate to have the MPPs that we have in York Region. I know we may disagree on some small things from time to time, but this is a group of people that are committed to their communities, willing to sit down with community associations, with unions, with whoever they need to speak to make Ontario better. And it's really felt on the ground in our communities. So I say thank you to the five MPPs that we have in York Region for their commitment. Thank you for the mention in the budget and your ongoing commitment to the new campus for York University in York Region. This is a significant investment that the province of Ontario is making, and it's going to benefit all communities in York Region. So thank you for that. Thank you for the mention for the young subway in the budget. We hope what that means is that you're actually endorsing Metrolinx's recommendation to fund 15% of the engineering costs so we can advance the young subway. So there's the compliments, the thank yous, and a warning. It's actually not about you. We're pretty concerned about the comments that have come from Mayor Tory in the last couple of days. And I think it's very discerning for us in York Region when we're hearing the Mayor of Toronto basically saying that everything has to be looked after in the City of Toronto, and it'd be irresponsible to extend the Yonge subway up to Highway 7. I would just say, and I know the Minister of Transportation has read the report, and I would ask our other MPPs to read your own agency that you set up in Metrolinx last year clearly indicated that with the investments that the provincial government is making, and we thank you for those, in RER, potentially in Smart Track, with the Spadina subway, with the support, by the way, that York Region gave to funding the automatic or automated train controls, which will create more capacity in the system. When you add all of that up, your own agency says there's lots of capacity on Yonge Street by the time that the extension is actually built and operating. And so I'm pleased to burst Mayor Tory's bubble. He's a personal friend, and if he was in the room, I'd be saying the same thing. But if he thinks, and we hear this from the mayors of Toronto all the time, they talk philosophically about how they want to see all of the GTA thrive, but yet when it comes to handing out the money, they want it all in the City of Toronto. And it's a warning to say, and I don't know if Francesco's still in the room, that I know that you're committed to the Yonge subway, and the federal government better be committed to the Yonge subway. Not every red cent can be spent in the City of Toronto because there are traffic issues throughout the GTA. And you know, Minister, that there's 2,500 bus trips a day going down Yonge Street. That justifies more than any other subway expansion that's happened in recent years. Shepherd, and even with York Region's support of Spadina, the facts are there. Your own agency recognizes that, and it's just a warning to stay committed. And I was hoping Francesco would hear this message, but I'll call him later.
Somebody warn Francesco.
Yeah. That we need that funding to advance the Yonge subway, and I thank you for the commitment that you've made so far.
Of investment announcements that I've made over the last 19 months in the GTHA, there's one line that I use continuously, and that's that the congestion challenge or the gridlock challenge that we face in this region doesn't respect municipal boundaries. It doesn't start in Vaughan and stop at Steeles or vice versa, or Markham. It's a region-wide challenge, and it needs region-wide solutions. And I say that whether I'm standing in downtown Toronto or I'm standing in Newmarket or Aurora. I even say that when I'm in Darien, because it is a regional challenge, and I believe that everybody does understand that. I know the leadership of the Premier. We have the ongoing GTHA Mayors and Chairs Gathering Summit. Another one's coming up next week. I'm not sure if you're going to be there, but hopefully you will be, and others who are in the room today will be there to keep making that point. But rest assured, from the provincial government's perspective, we know it's a region-wide issue. We know we have to solve it working together. And I think fundamentally Mayor Tory gets that too. It's just the nature sometimes of the game that we all play with respect to our local politics, but we'll keep working on it together. No doubt in my mind about that.
And the last question.
And it's very difficult to follow Mayor Scarpitti in anything, but I'll try my best. I also want to express my appreciation for this briefing session today, and to all of our York Region and Barrie MPPs for ensuring that the stakeholders are being well informed about the issues that are important to all of us, regardless of where we live. But I wanted to address something from the standpoint of the other hat I wear, and that's as CEO of CHATS, Community and Home Assistance to Seniors, which is the largest community agency serving over 7,500 seniors throughout York Region and South Simcoe, almost into Barrie, but not quite. I was delighted to see the emphasis on healthcare transformation, because it's time. It's about time that we look critically and look at making some major transformation in terms of not only how we allocate dollars, but how we allocate resources to make sure that we can enable people to live in their own homes with the appropriate supports that allow them to do that safely and independently, and not continuing to rely on hospitals, which is a much more costly proposition, and also better integrating all of the supports from primary care right down to the community supports that are available. I was delighted to see the extension of the $250 million commitment to community supports, as well as the support we've been getting to ensure that our personal support workers who are performing jobs in the community, in people's homes, that many of you are not even aware of what they're doing, that is so important and valuable. But my point is that while it's critical to ensure that we are extending services and providing more services in the community, we also need to make sure that the funds are appropriately allocated to sustain the community services that are available. We haven't received any increase in our base funding as community agencies in over 5 years, certainly in this LIN, and I know in other LINs it's been even longer. And it's one thing to say that we're going to try and provide more services to more people, but if we can't even sustain our day-to-day business activities, because we have the same challenges in the not-for-profit sector that businesses do in terms of increasing costs of rent and utilities and so forth. If we can't even sustain that, how are we going to live up to the promise that this budget and this government is making towards all of those people that could do so much better in their own homes and support that objective? So it's more sort of a plea and a request that I make, and also recognizing that as much as the other discussions are important, healthcare makes up almost 40% of our total costs in our budget. So we really do need to make sure transformation works effectively, and that the funds are allocated in the appropriate way. So thank you.
Well, I think we all agree with Christina, and one of the most important things that actually we really haven't mentioned this morning is we are on track to get to a balanced budget by 2017, next fiscal year. And that is going to free up what we're currently obviously spending on interest on the debt, and there should be the opportunity going forward to address some of the growth issues that you're talking about. I think we're all very conscious of the pressures and appreciate that. Now there was, I know we're way over time, but there was sort of a desperate plea for one last question.
One last question. I apologize, everyone is ready to go. I commend what's going on in education and healthcare infrastructure. I'm a little concerned as a business owner about some of the programs we're launching in cap and trade, your BP. I think you made some very helpful comments, Mr. Chan, about the need to be globally competitive. We can't compete on labor. I would just ask that the government be very sensitive and use the lens of global competitiveness when initiating these programs that potentially distinguish Ontario as a higher cost or more restrictive environment to do business on a global scale. Not only for the companies that exist here in terms of the cost that they may incur, but also in the potential detrimental impact they have on attracting businesses here. I think one of our problems, which is not necessarily a provincial problem, is we need more people in this country. We need to encourage immigration. We need to encourage businesses to locate here. And I get a little concerned when Ontario potentially raises its hands as a more costly, more restrictive environment in which to do that. And so I raise it as a comment, having a great opportunity of having all of you here today. So thank you.
Michael, would you like to respond?
I think I did talk about the reason for the in reference to other countries, on labor we are high cost. But at the same time, you're probably aware that we have created several very friendly business environment. For example, our corporate tax is like 13 points lower than America. We are 26, and America on average is sitting at 39. So there are elements that we're able to get in there, and which is quite favorable. Allow me to finish, okay, when we talk about we have all the skill of the talent. What next? Next, in my opinion, is find partnership. Or find partnership overseas. That we create a thing, we provide the service, and they market for us, and we sell product in their own land. So that is the full circle in terms of international trade, in terms of we having all these talented people here. And by the way, that's what I feel too, is a lot of many countries now start to realize that Ontario actually is way up here, up at the top in terms of research and innovation, in terms of having all these talented, skilled people right in Ontario. And when you go to the Silicon Valley in California, you will discover many of the workers there, they are from Ontario. They train in Ontario. So it's a matter of like, a transformation of how to get these people and maintain the people here, with the talent, create all this innovation, business and products, and so that eventually we can partner and then we can outreach to the world. Immigration, yes. Okay, we are big time on immigration in terms of getting the people here. We like to see 70% of people coming in here, economic immigrant and the skill and all that. And my conversation with the Federal Minister John McCallum also is on the same page. So that immigration will be big for us in terms of opening the door. Thank you.
Well, thank you all.